Nice to meet you.
Welcome to the noon meeting of the Rotary Club of Baton Rouge. Before we start, please remember to silence your cell phones or put them in airplane mode so they don't disturb the program. Before we start, I just wanted us to take a moment to remember our neighbors who were impacted by Hurricane Ida, not just here in Louisiana, but all across the country. We've seen the devastation, and so let's just keep all of our friends and neighbors in your thoughts. The invocation is going to be presented by Leela Mae Wilkes. After the invocation, please stay standing for the pledge, and then after the pledge, the four-way test.
We thank you so much for all the blessings that we have experienced this week. We thank thee for the things that we take so for granted, the power, the cool air, the water. We thank you for the protection you provided us during the storm. We pray for all of our neighbors who are suffering greatly and mightily. And please, Lord, as Rotarians, help us reach out to them and offer them our help in everything that we do. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, first,
Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Now Scott Godin will introduce our guests.
Good afternoon. Go Tigers. If everybody would please join me in welcoming our guests today as I introduce our visitors. If you please stand to be recognized, and members, please hold your applause until everybody's been introduced. We have with us today Janet Pace joining us. She's a visiting Rotarian from the Sunrise Rotary Club. Cree Matlock, Josh Landry, Nick Garner, Dawn Brown, Martha Abshire, Robbie Shadowing, Connor Little, Jordan Westbrook, Johnny Derrick, Jennifer Roberts, Loretta Ragland, Dave Peterson, Kevin Major, Eric Troutman, Russell Wilkes, Billy Belfontaine, Frank Roselle, Faye Smithhart, Casey Smithhart, Debbie Harriman. Welcome.
Welcome. And now Michael Tipton will introduce our newest member.
My fellow Rotarians, along with my co-proposer, Laura Van Zant, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our newest Rotary member, Chloe Wiley. Chloe is a native of Central Louisiana, growing up in Effie before attending LSU, where she distinguished herself in journalism at the Manship School. She also distinguished herself in community involvement throughout the Baton Rouge area. She was part of Leadership LSU, and yes, she was selected as LSU's homecoming queen, although despite my best attempts, that did not get me the chance to introduce her at Tiger Stadium a few weeks ago. Chloe and I both recruited for Teach for America in our senior year in college, and after college we both joined Teach for America, in Chloe's case serving as an elementary school teacher in North Baton Rouge. Chloe's teaching career involved the tumultuous days and months after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, which deepened her commitment to understanding the story behind the story, all of which led her back to School for Journalism at Northwestern in Chicago. Chloe had a few stints as a journalist before returning to Louisiana and education, serving as a teacher and leader in New Orleans, being selected for the Building Excellent Schools Fellowship, and ultimately being the founder and principal of Bridge Academy, now Idea Bridge. After a number of years of joining and growing Bridge into one of the most successful elementary schools in the Baton Rouge area, Chloe joined our team at the Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Louisiana Foundation in 2019, where she moved from grant seeker to grant maker, and where she's continued to focus on understanding the story behind the story, in this case, around public health. Chloe was actually officially admitted to this club almost 2 years ago now. She doesn't even have a new member badge. We were planning to introduce her in the spring of 2020, and obviously the world changed a little bit. Since March 2020, Chloe has been leading our disaster relief grant-making efforts. We've now committed some $15 million to COVID relief, Hurricane Laura relief, Hurricane Ida relief, on top of all of our normal grant-making, making me all the more glad that we've got a really amazing colleague who has joined our teams. Chloe's involved with the Thrive Foundation, court-appointed special advocates, and lots of other efforts around the Baton Rouge area. My fellow Rotarians, I give you my friend and colleague, our newest Rotarian, Chloe Wiley.
Welcome to the club, Chloe. Today's head table, to my right, your left, Gaines Garrett, Vice President, Secure Shredding and Recycling, who led us in the pledge. Michael Tipton, President, Blue Cross and Blue Shield Foundation of Louisiana. Chloe Wiley, our newest member. Corey Wilson, Superintendent, Breck, who led us in the four-way test. I'm Maui Tachi, your club president. Kim Mulkey, our speaker, who will be more formally introduced. Tom Wagasback, Vice President, Financial Advisor, Morgan Stanley. Leela Mae Wilkes, President, Brown Eagle Group Incorporated. Your head table. And now Stephen Winkler will come up and do Stephen Winkler things.
Thank you, Maui. Yes, indeed. We said we were going to have a contest. I said it was going to be a $200 gift certificate to Ruth's Chris. And indeed, I have it here. Now, what you need to know is that you have to take me to dinner when you go. Is that understood by everybody? Okay. Now, we have established on the screen everybody's name, although, and they will do this magic thing that'll spin it. And when you're ready, go. Kendra Beverly, are you in the house? All right, if you're not, I will hold this for you in my pocket. But I took this auspicious occasion with the particular speaker that we have today to do something for the other 10 people who are on the list, who submitted names or brought about people to be brought into the club. And it takes a team to make this stuff work. So, Christelle Slaughter. All right. Mike Manning. Mike's probably, you'll take it to him? Very good. These are signed, autographed basketballs. These are going to be worth more than the $200 at Ruth Chris's. But let me warn you, do not eat them. Haggai Davis. Oh, I'll let Coach through that one.
Check your hands out.
There you go. Richard Lipsy. Fritz Embaugh. Ed Sylvie. Kelly Hurtado. Steve Warner. Craig Netterville. Hiller Moore. Oh, Craig, all right. That's right. Hiller Moore. All right. We will save these for those people who are not here today. But thank you, Coach, very much for taking care of that for me this morning. And again, the contest, even though there's no contest, Membership is obviously critical and we need to continue that as we go forward. So please, if you have somebody who you think meets the appropriate standards, please invite them to join us for lunch, and let's take it from there. Thank you very much.
A couple of announcements. Next week, which is September 15th, right here at Drusilla, we will have the second dose of the COVID vaccine, which was the August 8th vaccination. So if you got your first vaccine on the 8th, make sure to show up next week. Next Wednesday, the 15th, our guest speaker will be Insurance Commissioner Jim Donnellan, and he'll be speaking to us about changes in the insurance landscape in 2021 and beyond. Coach, every week our club donates a book to Crestworth Elementary School signed by our speaker on behalf of you. And this week the book is Dog Diaries, a middle school story by James Patterson. Thank you, Coach. Now remember to please put your masks on if you're not eating or drinking. And now Tom Wagasback will introduce today's speaker.
This will be very brief but proper. It's going to leave more time for Coach. Besides, nobody wants to hear me in my northern accent, northern Assumption Parish. So, all right, y'all ready? Hammond High School player, state champion. Louisiana Tech player, national champion. Team USA player, Olympic gold medal. Louisiana Tech assistant coach, national champion. Baylor University head coach, national champion. All she does is win. Ladies and gentlemen, LSU women's basketball coach, Coach Kim Mulkey.
Well, I can't put my mask on. The governor's not here, and if you want to take that damn mask off, take it off, okay? John Bell grew up 20 minutes up the road in the same parish I did, and our parish right now has more to worry about than COVID. It is a mess. How many of you have people living in Tangipahoa Parish? I have a mother, and she can't quit crying. She makes me cry, but I go pick her up. Did I mess you up? I go pick her up. I bought her a generator a few years ago. Now you're going to take years to get a generator, right? Thank God I did. So pray for those people in Livingston and Tangipahoa Parish. I don't know how we missed it, but we did in Baton Rouge. But they need a lot of help right now. Chloe, I just found out she's my relative. So she's telling me all these kinfolk, and I'm like, really? I said, well, that aunt's picking my mother up tomorrow to drive her to Alexandria to LSUA, where I'm speaking at a fundraiser. It's a small world. So, see, I realized today I do have some pretty good redneck educated cousins, because she's done a heck of a lot more in her life than I'll ever do. So you kind of brightened my day. Most all my relatives have shown up with no teeth and everything else since I've been back in the state. I'm like, oh, now who are you related to? True story. My mother's mother was over here in Baton Rouge. They were, growing up young age, and my grandmother, who is deceased now, named my mother after this restaurant, Drusilla's. She was at lunch with, I guess, the owner at the time. I don't know. But my mother is named Drusilla, and it's spelled exactly like this. And so every time my mom reminds me of Drusilla's restaurant. Mom, have you eaten at Drusilla's restaurant yet? No, Mom, I haven't. So now I can tell her I came close to Drusilla's restaurant, right? Team. I had my first workout yesterday with my team. I can only have them 4 hours a week. And so I spent 2 hours on the floor with them, and it was, they played hard. We got a long way to go. We've got to recruit and bring in talented players, and but they're eager, they're excited, I'm excited. It has been only 2 times in my career of coaching that I looked out there, and I have an entire group that I have to teach everything. Usually when you've been someplace for a period of time, your seniors teach your younger ones, your juniors teach your younger ones. I'm teaching everybody in that gym yesterday, and it just hit me that, wow, we've got a long way to go, and it's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen. I won't go over each player. What I'd like to do, and I've learned this through all the years I've been speaking, is you don't want to hear a speech. You just want to talk. You want to ask me questions. So that's what I would like to do. But before I do that, I'd like for Jennifer Roberts, one of my assistants, she's been with me 20 plus years at Baylor. She's actually a Shreveport girl. She went to Evangel, and her dad's a retired fire chief from Shreveport, Bo Roberts. But Jen, she came, one, to drive me, driving Miss Daisy. And number two, she has some applications there. So raise your hand. I'm going to put you on the spot. Preachers don't do this, but coaches do, all right? Raise your hand if you have a season ticket for women's basketball right now. Oh, hell, I need to get out of here. Okay? Raise your hand if you will buy a season ticket after today. Raise your hand if you prefer to go buy a season ticket for a team that's not going to win. Hell, I'm trying everything I can, okay? Guys, we need you to buy season tickets, okay? Even if you don't like the sport, even if you don't like LSU, okay? You live in this community, right? You live here somewhere in the surrounding area, okay? I need your help. If we're not winning, how do I sell a recruit to our program? I can't do it just by my accomplishments. I have to sell it by attendance. So it's very important, whether you ever come or not, that we can turn in those numbers to the NCAA and have attendance and go, wow, wait till they start winning. If they're selling that many season tickets now, when they start winning, I can only imagine how difficult it will be. So $50. You can get the cheapest, I think, ticket for $50. Now, I want to tell you, I'm not giving tickets away when we start winning. So just remember that. This is what I said at Baylor. You better get your ticket now, because when we start winning, you won't get them that cheap. They used to give out vouchers. Whoever screamed the loudest at a women's basketball game at Baylor got free pizza and free vouchers. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that, okay? So please, please buy a season ticket. Fast Break Club. Those of you who, need a tax write-off or just want to do something good, we have a fast break club, and I will meet with them monthly. There will be more people at that luncheon than you have in this room right now. I promise you that, because they'll ask me every personal question imaginable. And it's a fun time, and those funds help what the budget doesn't cover on spur of the moment. I may need to take a charter flight somewhere, and that money helps us, and there's many levels that you can contribute. Okay. How many Baptists we got in here? Y'all in the minority down here, baby. How many Methodists we got? Watch this. How many Catholics do we have? I left Southeast Louisiana in 1980, and I went to North Louisiana. And it was predominantly, obviously, Catholic down here. But when I went to North Louisiana, you're at the Bible Belt up there, and so it was all Baptist, Methodist. And then I go to Baylor for 21 years. Well, it's a Baptist university. And so when the president hired me at Baylor, he was a preacher. And I went in and I met with him, with the athletic director, and great people. And to this day, they text me weekly. He's now the president at Houston Baptist. And I asked him, I said, are you Baptist or are you Mormon? Because you got about 10 kids. And he laughed. He thought that was funny. And I said, I have one question. I said, how much homework have you done on me? Well, we know that you're fiery and you're passionate and you're from South Louisiana. And I said, no, seriously, how much homework have you done on me? My point was this. I've never been at a private institution in my life. I grew up during integration. I was one of 10 white kids in Tangipahoa Parish that was bused to every public school over there. And I was uncomfortable. quite frankly, to go to a private school. And I talked to him about that, and I said, do you know all the bad things about me? Because you need to know that I cuss. Well, that's what he did. He just laughed. He thought that was the funniest thing. And I said, I will never embarrass your institution. I will never get on TV and drop any ugly words. I said, but if you sit close enough to my bench, you may hear an adjective that is real demonstrative. I said, sometimes you just got to talk that language to get their attention. So it's good to be back home. That language is an everyday occurrence down here. I feel like a Baptist preacher down here. So it's good. Do you know I would tell Thibodeau and Boudreaux jokes up there, and they would go, huh? So I finally said, Kim, you got to get on their page. So the first joke I told them, I said, you know, you Baptists are something. I grew up Baptist. I grew up in the tall Benny Baptist Church. In fact, Ed Orgeron's secretary, Yael Lofton, her daddy baptized me. She was Yael Taylor. Now, is that not a small world? Hell, she's been here through Sabin, through Denard, through all of them. And I looked up and I said, oh, my God, this kid knows where I come from. And so I picked up the phone and I said, Yael, don't you ever tell my life story and where I come from. You understand that? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So I told this joke, and I said, surely these guys will get this. And I think I offended half of them in there because they realized it was true. I said, you know, you Baptists are funny. I said, you can have a drunk come in the back door of the church, and y'all would escort him out. I said, but boy, you let somebody come in that back door drunk with money, and y'all make them a damn deacon. And they're doing it. You're right, Coach. You're right. I said, so I left the Baptist church and decided I need to be in the middle. You know, I need to be Methodist. You know, I don't know why. I guess because, you know, back then you could dance a little more. And, you know, down here we like to dance. You could drink a little more. I said, but really the true reason I probably became a Methodist was I wanted to get married in that church in Ruston many years ago, and it was the prettiest church they had. So, guys, it's good to be home. It's good to be home. I can be me, not that I've never not been me, but I think it says something to you guys. Why would she leave a dynasty after 21 years? Those people took care of me and my family. They took care of me. Financially, they took care of me. And they loved me, and I loved them in return. I could not tell them when I left why I was leaving other than it felt right, and I needed to go home. Not go home to take care of a mother, not to go home because you got a sick mother, not to go home because your children are here. I left a daughter there that was on my staff. It just felt like the timing in my life was right to come do more than win basketball games in this state. Not because I'm an LSU graduate. Hell, I left here many years ago and went to North Louisiana to play. So it wasn't any of that. I cannot tell you anything other than I've always gone with my gut. And it was a calling for me to come back home and to give all of us something to be proud of. Even if we never win a game, my presence, my whatever it is in the community, and I'm not going to ever get into politics. You can forget that. I didn't come home to do that either. It was just time to come back home. So with that being said, you guys asked me some questions. Be careful. You may not want to hear the answer, but I'll give it to you straight. And nothing's off limits. So with that, somebody asked, yes, sir. How's the baseball player doing? Kramer's good. My son Kramer, those of you who don't know, played at LSU, and they played Florida for that national championship, and he was drafted by the Cardinals. He actually is having a really, really good AAA season. The hard part is, as you well know, you just don't, you can rot in AAA. If you don't have the right break or the people above you don't get traded or get hurt, it doesn't matter what you do. And that's a little frustrating for him because they also stopped going, they had 40 man, now it's 28, you know, but he's doing all he can to someday step on that major league field. And my deal is if it's not with the Cardinals, tell your agent to get you traded to the sorriest team out there. Because the sorriest team's going to need middle infielders, but he's really doing good. He's kind of, well, he hadn't kind of, he's changed his profile. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Kramer has always been a great defensive player, just a wizard on that side of the field. But he never had to hit for power and do all those things. In fact, Maneri's guilty of this, and a lot of his coaches, they give them the eye test. And they see a kid that's about 5'9½", 170 pounds, wringing wet, and they think, oh, well, we got to make him the little Johnny Hustle and bunt and die. Kramer's got some pop in his bat if you'll just let him show it. So he's got like 10 home runs. He leads them in in RBIs. He's batting in the 1 hole, the 2 hole. He's doing what he needs to do to move up. He's ready. But, you know, you got to be patient. That's baseball. You could sit there and never make a move to the major leagues, but I can tell you this, he's good enough to play in the major leagues. And I say that as a coach, not as a mother. You just got to get the right break. A great example of that is Austin Nola. He sat in minor league AAA forever. His agent finally got him with the right organization. Switched positions, but it'll happen for him. I just don't know with what team, but thank you for asking. He's in Memphis, AAA with the Cardinals, and he has to go through the 1st of October. I think they extended the season, so he'll be back here. I can't imagine that he'll be in Waco, Texas with his mama living in Baton Rouge, so you guys will probably see him down here just as soon as the season's over. But thank you for asking about him. Yes, sir.
Coach, are you bringing back any of the great Lady Tigers to help, and is Shaq helping in any way?
Shaq, I met Shaq. I don't know that I ever met Shaq until the Naismith Hall of Fame. And he and Barkley, you know, all the big dogs were there, and I went up and just kind of rubbed his head, you know, and I think his daughter, one of his daughters was at LSU a year or two ago. I'm not sure where she is now. He does have a daughter that is a prospect, that's a junior in California. So I don't know financially. I can't tell you that he's said, hey, here's my checkbook. He hasn't done anything like that. Former players on the women's side, obviously, I've reached out to as many as I can, just a phone call. I stopped on I-55 2 weeks after I got the job. I was actually going to see Kramer in Memphis, driving back to Baton Rouge. And for those of you who are old Lady Tiger fans or Tiger fans, Cornelia Gayden lives right there at the state line in Summit, Mississippi. And so I pick up the phone and call her. She goes, where are you? And I said, well, I'm coming down almost to Macomb. And she said, Coach, please stop and see me. So I pull off on the side of the highway and give her a hug. Sylvia Fowles obviously just won another Olympic gold medal. And, of course, Simone. Tamika's been by several, and so many of them. You know, they're excited. They're hungry. You know, they're proud. They remember what the program was like, and they want it to come back. And so we're going to do everything we can to recruit. We're going to do everything we can to compete. It may not be reflective this first year or two in wins and losses, but if I can leave a floor and feel like, I made them sweat a little bit, then that's progress. That's progress. Yes, sir.
Coach, we've seen Coach K retire in a year. Roy Williams about to retire in a year. My feeling is because of the transfer portal. Can you tell me how, from your early days at Baylor to now, the recruiting has changed where it wasn't recruits before, high school recruits, now it's the transfer portal. Can you tell me how you've changed your way?
Well, the NIL has changed a lot of things. Do all of you know the NIL, kept up with it? That's basically name, image, and likeness. These kids can go, they can come in here and say, Drusilla's write me whatever, and I can make more money doing that than, you know, my scholarship. So many rules have changed things. The transfer portal now, guys, is basically like free agency in baseball. Coaches wake up now and they get on their computers and they go, they entered the portal. Okay, who are they pissed at? The coach, the girlfriend, the whatever. Or they may not even be pissed. They just ready to go back home, and that's what they do. They enter their name in a portal. That can devastate you as a coach. You work years to recruit a kid. And bam, like that, they control you. They can just take you from a top 25 team to nothing. And it's a helpless feeling because you're only limited in numbers of scholarships you can give. In basketball, it's 15. So I can't go have 2, 3 backups at 5 positions on the floor. You invest a lot into these young people. So that is a lot of why coaches get out of the business. Society has changed. Society has changed. And it's all because of those damn cell phones and social media. Okay? I don't let them come into the arena with a cell phone. They got to keep those phones in their car. You know why? Just like this and this right here. You can take one little excerpt of what I say today and you can blow it up to be whatever you want it to be. But those of you who are here today, you understand the message. And that's what happens. And those are the things that run you out of the business. If it was just about X's and O's, people would die on the sidelines. But it's not about that anymore. Used to, when I got in the business, I was assistant at Louisiana Tech for 15 years. So I was up there 19 years of my life. The thing that I always learned was paperwork. I didn't want to do paperwork back in the day before computers. So I made sure when I took the Baylor job, I hired somebody and that's all his job was. I didn't want to worry about a budget and I didn't want to do paperwork. Well, now that's low on the totem pole. You got to hire assistants to do graphics every day. You got to hire assistants to get on that transfer portal every day. They got to know the NIL stuff. It's just too much. And what I want to focus on is recruiting and coaching. And then you come and bring to me what I need to know discipline-wise. I'm not afraid to discipline kids. I think that is a big part of a mistake that coaches make is for those who have never won a championship, they're the most guilty. They will look the other way and shove stuff under a rug instead of discipline a kid. Not me. I'll lose a ball game before I ever put something under the rug. And that's just how I've always approached it. Now, I'm fair. I understand things have changed. I'm fair. But I know how to win. You don't win without talent. You have to have talent. And then that talent has to buy into what you're saying. I was blessed and I took this job, y'all. All my coaches came with me. Now think about that. All of them came with me. Except for my associate head coach. He's a 68-year-old guy who had his family there, his grandchildren there. He wanted the job at Baylor when I left, and I told him a 68-year-old white man is not getting that job. That's what I told him. I said, so you need to come to Baton Rouge with me. If you don't want to come, he didn't get the job. Okay? My daughter didn't come. She just had her second child, and it's too much. She needs to be a mom right now. She's married. Her husband has a wonderful job in development, and she's missing it every day. Every day. Because I'm going to tell you, for those of you who don't know, being a mother and a stay-at-home mother is tough. Do you hear me? It is tough, particularly when you have a master's degree, you've worked all your life, you've been around basketball, you've been around sports. Now, all of a sudden, her little world is 2 kids that are about to drive her plumb batty. Okay? But she'll figure it out. Good question. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a very avid women's basketball fan. We have lost a lot of fans over the last couple of years. How do you get them back?
You've lost a lot of fans because you hadn't been winning, for one thing. Okay, winning solves a lot of problems. But when I went to Baylor 21 years ago, that team had won 7 games prior to us getting there. So how did I sell tickets? By doing exactly what I'm doing here. I was in the community. I'll see you and go, did you get your ticket yet? You promised me you'd get your ticket yesterday. I bugged the hell out of people. Okay? Because I tell you, got Aggies, you got Longhorns, you got Baylor Bears, you had a whole mixture in Waco, Texas. And I had Longhorns buying tickets, Aggies buying tickets, because I told them, this is your community, people. You don't have to cheer for us when we play those Longhorns and Aggies. But by God, you live here, you work here, and it just became, Kim was such a big part of the community here, and I got to know people. Well, I don't have to start from scratch here. My God, I'm related to just about everybody that I turn. you know? Oh, I saw you when you were in high school. Oh, you beat my granddaughter. Buy your tickets. And I'll say it again. Buy them because, one, you're proud to live in Louisiana. Hell, if I can leave a dynasty to come back here, you can walk across the street and come to a game. You can buy a ticket. Yes, ma'am.
Who have been the coaches that have inspired you? Have there been coaches that you've looked up to and wanted to emulate or learn lessons from?
Well, I learned lessons from all coaches in multiple sports. I watch, I observe. My coaches were Leon Barmore and Sanja Hogue at Louisiana Tech. I had two coaches at Hammond High School. One got the ULL job, which was USL at the time, and one got the Lamar job. Neither one of them stayed in college coaching. At Louisiana Tech, you know the history there on how many championships we won. And then I played for Pat Summitt in the '84 Olympics. Kay Yao was her assistant coach. None of them are still alive today, but they were totally different, contrasting styles. Pat was intense like I am, and then you had Kay Yao, who toted Bibles everywhere she went. You shook around her. She's such a great Christian lady. So I've learned a little bit from everybody. Bob Knight was the coach, the '84 Olympic team. I'd sit and watch those guys. Tell you a quick story about Bob Knight. So he's coaching the men's team. Pat's coaching the women's team, and we were in L.A. And if you know anything about the University of Southern Cal USC campus, it's in a bad section of L.A. It's the Watts area where they had all the riots years and years ago. You just don't, you're shocked because USC is a big, prestigious private school, but it's in a bad section. So our Olympic Village was around the campus, and so we're on the bus and we're coming back, and it's hot and the windows are down on that old yellow bus, and Cheryl Miller's sitting here, and you know, you got all my teammates here and Pat sitting in the front, and we see this guy walking in a bad area of the village. And man, he's got his practice gear on, and we're like, what the heck? And we get closer, and we get closer. Well, it was Leon Wood. He was on the men's team. He's an NBA official now. Knight threw him out of practice, and they were practicing at the Forum. Okay? And Knight said, walk your ass back to the village. So Pat, we stopped the bus. Pat's going to let him get on the bus, you know. I said, man, get on here. He said, if you think I would get on that bus after what that man just told me, he said, I'm going to walk every inch of this. So it's funny things like that. Back to your thing when I say society has changed. Could you imagine a coach doing that to a kid now? Oh, that would be the worst thing in the world. Oh, my goodness, you had to sweat a little bit. Okay? Oh, my goodness, you had to look over your shoulder a little bit and be a little bit concerned. Okay? It's entitlement that you're dealing with now. You're dealing with entitlement, and there's many of us in this room that are guilty of it. There's many of us in this room that are guilty of raising kids and grandkids to be entitled. To me, I learned so much in Tangipahoa Parish when integration hit. And I didn't even know it, nor did I have the capacity to understand the decision my parents made to keep me in public school. To this day, I just look at my mother and I think, gosh, that made me who I was. I never spent the night away from home, not one time growing up, because of integration. We didn't know each other. We were learning. I was one of 10 white kids in public schools until we got to high school. And then all of a sudden they saw, oh, we're going to come back to public school now. So I learned so much from that. It made me who I am. It made me tough. It made me independent. It taught me how to deal with the real world, different cultures, different people. I had a coach tell me one time on my staff, and I hadn't had many because they don't leave me. My coaches stay with me because I take care of them. Financially, I take care of them, and I give them responsibilities. And they said, Coach, I've never met a woman who can go into any home and talk the language. And I said, what do you mean? They said, I have watched you go to the south side of Chicago and go in there and understand and talk and yet be yourself. And then I've watched you go to the richest of rich in a home and talk. how do you do that? And it made me think, how do I do that? It's because of how I was raised in that environment of integration that I remained true to who I was, but I could understand all cultures, all walks of life. I had a young lady that played at the University of Florida, and she transferred to Baylor her senior year. We beat them in the Sweet 16 early in my career at Baylor. In fact, it was before we won the first national championship. And in 2004, she graduates from Baylor. She was from Tampa, Florida, hell of a player in the SEC. Bernice Mosby was her name. And she transferred, and she's getting ready to walk across the stage to graduate. And she's a young black girl, and she said, "Coach, I want to tell you something." And I said, "Well, go for it." She goes, "But I don't want you to take this the wrong way." And I looked at her and said, "Be careful." And she said, "Coach, you are a black woman with white skin." And I looked at her and I said, "Why would I take that the wrong way?" She said, "A lot of people would." She goes, "I've never met anybody like you. How you treat people, you're very hard, you're very honest, you hold people accountable, but you don't make it personal." And she said, "A lot of people can't handle the truth. You make people handle the truth." And I told Bernice, I said, that might be the second highest compliment that I've ever been paid as a human being. She said, "Well, what was the first?" I said, the first was from an athletic director who said, "Kim Mulkey is the toughest woman that I've ever been around in my life." The toughest woman. She can handle any situation. She carries herself where those kids believe in her. When she gets sick, you never know she's sick, you know. And I just thought, I can handle that as being the greatest compliment that I was ever paid, is she's just tough. Now, probably because I'm tough, that's probably why the hell I'm divorced, right? Because all these men in here think they got to lose their man card if they got a tough woman, right? Right? Look at you. Yeah. Listen, that was the most difficult thing that ever happened in my life. I won't ever get over divorce. Didn't want the divorce, dated him for 5 years, was with him 23 years, devastated. Would have quit my career. Can you imagine that? I offered to quit coaching to save my marriage. And because that's how much family means to me. It was about those children. And so I'm going to give my last little spiel here for those of you who are having a difficult time in your marriage, and every one of you either are or you have. That's just life. And you got kids involved. You better put your selfish ass to the side, okay, and what you need, and think about those kids. Unless it's abuse. Unless there's abuse involved, quit thinking, "Oh, we're just tired of each other. We grew apart." It never heals in a child's heart. I promise you that. And I spent many, many a day getting those kids therapy, making them have a relationship with their dad. And for what? For what? Because there's a period in your little married life where you just kind of get selfish and you just kind of do all that. Trust me, there's a reason you take vows. There's a reason those vows have the words in it that they do. And if I can just reach one of you to think about your children, I promise you it'll be worth it. Because they learn from us. They learn from us. Okay, I'm preaching up here. I sound like those damn Baptists at Baylor. Okay? One more question? We good? All right.
Do you have the facilities and resources that you need?
No. What do we need? Okay? I took this job after a 10-minute conversation with Scott Woodward. Now, it took me 6 days to give him an answer, but in my mind, I took this job because what is he going to tell me that I don't already know? I grew up 40 minutes from here. He grew up here. So I was like, oh man, this guy just, he's kind of like old Kim. We just grew up down here. And so I never once asked him, what does a locker room look like? I never once asked him how much money in my budget. I never asked any of those questions. I never called anybody and asked those questions. I talked to them about salary and what I made at Baylor and were you willing to pay that? And I talked to them about my coaches' salaries and what it would take to get them. That was it. I come to LSU and I walked in the facilities and I was like, God, LSU can do better. LSU can do better. What in the world is going on? Okay? And so I take myself back 21 years to when I went to Baylor University. 12, 15,000 students at the time. Not in a conference as big as the SEC. Certainly not as big a brand. Okay? And I'm thinking, we got to do better. So the first 6 days, Ralph can attest to it, Debbie can attest to it, I spent raising money to get new offices. And I raised a hell of a lot of money in 6 luncheons and in 6 dinners with handfuls of people and say, I'm not bringing a recruit into those offices. I'm not bringing a recruit into that training room. So you know where my offices are right now? I'm on the south side of the football stadium. Go in gate 20 over there. And I'm just in temporary offices with an open floor plan like this, looking at my coaches every day until those offices get redone. And they're working on them now. I don't have the answers as to why, but I have a lot of ideas as to how you can clean it up and make it better. But it's got to be better. I did the same thing at Baylor. I raised $750,000 real quick to get a locker room that we could bring recruits to. It is plush. It is nice. And it's got to get better. So those of you who want to write me a check today, I'll meet you right there out that door. Okay? Thank y'all. Buy your tickets.
Meeting is adjourned. Scott.